Okay. Let's see.
Hey!
Hi, everybody.
Morten is having some technical issues.
It is Sunday. Okay. Yeah, but I'm here now, aren't I?
You are.
You're here.
You are. Go ahead.
I am live from a campsite in. Thank you. I'm live from a campsite in Sweden, and apparently every kid in the entire campsite is using up the Wi-Fi just the moment I started streaming. So we're back to the days that I didn't have stable internet at home when I streamed. But let's go on. Let's start with our ham radio weeks, and we got a guest down here, Colin. So how about you start with your ham radio week?
Well, I'm actually just back from holiday, so I've been away with the family for a week. So I just came back on Friday afternoon. So I've not really been doing any radio. Came back. Well, as I say, this is Sunday, so Friday. Didn't do anything yesterday. Today I set up the variable length end-fed half wave and spent about an hour or so on the HF World Championship. So that was pretty good. So bit play on 20, 15 and 10. So quite enjoyed that. Quite working mostly those HQ stations because they're all big guns. So just playing a little bit of radio really. Got some other things in the works since before that. I've been still working on my Moxons, so a 20-meter Moxon. I've got some tent poles to make a 20-meter version again, remake that. My hex beam, it's very much a work in action. There's bits of it lying all over here, so yeah, I need to get back to that. But yeah, it's the holidays. Everyone's on holiday at the minute, so spending time with the family and so on. So hopefully the next couple of weeks or so, we'll get back into things. And I think Morton's frozen.
That's good. I saw your stream.
No, you're there.
Yeah, I'm here. I saw that you streamed from
latency,
the HF World Championships there. Yeah, the latency is terrible.
Far away.
How about I'm not frozen, but how about let's see, if you take over, Walt, run the show, I'll get another laptop and see if that helps.
All right, you got it. Cool. Hey, Bob, how's your week been this week? Radio week.
I can't remember the first part of it. That's my short.
Kan ni låna pjäsen till mamma?
I can remember. Morten, you should mute yourself.
Ja, men Ström kommer göra det. Kan ni få låna pjäsen till mamma?
This is going to be fun.
Now we can hear him.
Det är ingenting som virkar akkurat nu.
I'll try and speak over him. Yesterday I went up to let's see, Lima Bravo. Lima Alpha Bravo Uniform 165 to. I tried, or the reason I went up was to participate in the GW SOTA event, which was well marketed. I won't say widely marketed, but I figured I may be able to get some Welsh summits. I did get. I heard from none, absolutely zero Welshmen on that summit. Yeah. But I got 120 other contacts for summits on the air, and that's quite remarkable. That's a personal best for me. And today I've been to Lima Alpha Tango Mike 001, which is Gaustad Open, 1,883. Is that correct, Kjetil?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, meters above sea level. Excellent summit. Excellent walk. Excellent exercise to walk up there. It's it wears you out. So I almost missed the stream. I had a nap in the car after I came back down, but I just woke up in time. Yeah, I think 41 contacts on that summit today. That's basically my at least my weekend. I probably played some radio on the week as well, but there's this thing called work that you have to do. We'll leave it at that. Back to you, Walt.
Awesome, good stuff. Teto, how's your week been?
It started great. I've been on vacation, driving around the southern part of Norway, like the southern half of Norway, doing some amazing scenery. Did one POTA activation with 0 contacts. Or I got one, but that was FT8 with somebody who didn't know. I was doing POTA, so that was fun. Then the next summit had a big NATO radar on top, so I was not allowed to go up there. So that was completely wasted 2 hours drive. And then I did the westernmost SOTA in Norway. Like it's 498 meters, so it's just below the 2-point limit. That's annoying, but it's a beautiful view on what we call the West Cape. Then I went to this place, Glacier. It's one of like Norway's big glacial parks. It's a national park, and just such a stunning scenery. The SOTA summit that's just above my head, that was 1.2 kilometers above me. That's 3,500 feet or something. It's just straight up. It's like amazing scenery. So I did a few QSOs there, played a bit with 100 watts because most of these places were places I didn't have to walk very far. So that was nice. And other than that, no radio.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know how that goes. Tobias, how's it going, man? You getting better?
Yeah, it's I got the sling off, so the arm is out of the sling, but you're waving. But yeah, when you had your arm in a sling for 12 days, nothing is working anymore. So it's a bit painful, yeah, to get everything moving again. And yeah, running doctor's appointments, etc. Fighting the bureaucracy. It was not a fun week, but I guess, yeah, things are slowly improving. So not a lot of ham radio. I managed to get my laptop hooked up to the Shack PC, so I can do basically remote FT8 from the living room. But I don't think that's anything to be proud of. So just, I'm a little bit on the air.
There you go. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, my week has been the first week back in the States for 2 months. So I've just kind of been waking up at like ungodly hours in the morning. But the good thing with that is here from about 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning is when we kind of have the opening on 20 meters over to VK and ZL. So I get up in the morning and play radio while everybody, I don't have to worry about pileups because every other American station is asleep. But other than that, I haven't done a whole lot. I did work the HQ contest a little bit. And I was saying earlier, I got a lot, worked it for about an hour and a half and then life. I had to go do things. But hey, I'm really excited to have Colin on here because Colin is an antenna guy that I watch and I think a lot of, and he's one of my favorites. So Colin, man, it's so good to have you and to have you here talking antennas with us. What type of what's next? What do I get to look for next on YouTube? Like blow me away.
I don't know about that, Walt. I think probably the Moxon the 20 meter Moxon or the hex beam if I can find it here somewhere. I've got bits of a line. I'll actually get I've got the center post here. But yeah, this big thing here.
Cool.
So yeah, this has been work in progress for months. These are all the feed points. So that's obviously 20, 17, 15, 12, and 10. I didn't bother putting 6 on this. But I could add it at any point. 6 would go just here. So that's and it's something that basically anyone could make. This plate was actually just bought from eBay. So it was a 200mm diameter plate, and I just drilled the holes myself from a little template. So yeah, so I had some, I would say, a lot of issues with it. I was using 8mm poles, temp poles, but they were just too flimsy. By the time you got them out to that size, that length for 20 meters, they were hard to constrain. So I've ended up getting the bigger 11mm poles. Now I know that some of the portable commercial hex beams they're using, I think the Buddy Hex uses a 10mm, but I couldn't get a 10mm, so I've got an 11mm pole. So I need to get those basically cut and measured. And on here, I need to actually, you can see I've got little inserts in here.
Right.
I need to change these inserts, so I need to get different clamps. Now I need to get, basically there's a model makers, and I need to get the correct size pole, correct size tube. So that doesn't come into stock till the end of July. And when that comes into stock, I'll get that and change that over. So that's a little bit of a way. So there's probably a few weeks, Walt, before you're going to get a substantial video.
We're getting some strange sounds from you, Morten. Sounds like a
Some
loop
QRM.
some sort. Yeah.
Okay. How does it sound now?
Sounds good.
Sound good?
Yeah, sounds good.
I just had to kind of stop the StreamYard on the other laptop, so hopefully we're better now.
Cool.
Good.
Cool.
Colin,
Is it still bad?
No, it's good. It's good.
No, it's
Yep.
good. Colin, I had one more quick question. On your 20-meter Moxon, when you go to cut this thing and you design it for the length of the wires or whatever, what frequency in 20 meters do you usually aim for?
I normally just take the middle of the band, Walt. So 20 is obviously 14,175.
Okay.
And what you tend to find is with Moxons is you tend to have quite a big bandwidth with them. So you will cover the whole band easily. So I just aim for the middle of the band, and if it's you'll never ever get it right in the middle. So if it's a little bit just to either side, what you find is it covers the band easily,
Okay.
Walt. So I tend not to bother about that. It's only really because it's still a full size antenna at the end of the day. So
Right.
it's still one half. It's still, it's a dipole and a reflector. So much like your dipole, you're going to get that kind of wide bandwidth. So if it's a little bit out, and you can trim it, but no, I haven't really had any issues with that. So I just go with the middle of the band. But I could even like on see the one I made for 15 meters. Because as you get higher in frequency, you get a bigger bandwidth anyway. The only one that you're not going to cover is probably 10 meters. But you'll cover most of it. You will cover most of 10 meters. I know that's the one that everyone has the trouble with. But even then, you'll probably still get up to 29 and something. Probably still get a megahertz of bandwidth or so with a Moxon.
It's
What about
interesting.
6 meters?
I know when I cut my wires for like a vertical when I make let's say a 20-meter ground plane. I usually aim for like 14,240, but I think that's also where I'm at in the States. The general class starts at 14,225 and goes up. So I kind of aim more in that direction. As an extra, I can go all the way, the same band that you guys have. But I always, when I cut my wires, I want to build a Moxon. I want to build a vertical Moxon down on the beach. And I was sitting, that's one of the questions I've had in my mind. What do I measure it out at, and what frequency do I shoot for? But
I wouldn't be overly worried. I would just go for middle of the band or wherever you're going to work for. But I do have that plan as well. I'm actually going to get like an adapter that I can actually take my Moxon and just turn it vertical. You put an adapter onto but it makes it a bit more complex. But what you could do is you could make a VDA, vertical dipole array, which might be actually a bit simpler, Walt, because effectively you just need your pole and you need a T-piece on it. And then you just, it's like a diamond-shaped wire.
Right.
So you could, there's probably less mechanics in making that than what there is actually making a Moxon. But if you've got a Moxon, but if you're inland, then you can take it with you. So because if you've got a vertical Moxon and you use it inland, there's not a massive amount of benefit because you get all the ground losses. Whereas when you're at the shore, you get all the benefit from the ground. So
that's a project I have. I'm probably within the next few weeks, I get the time. I'm going to build. I bought the harness, basically what the CBers have for the trucks. The co-phasing harness for CB, and I'm going to take 2 verticals. Basically, I'm trying to decide if I'm going to do true quarter wave verticals, or I have 2. I actually purchased a second slide winder coil, and I was going to tune them in for 20 meters and put them, a half a wavelength apart and run it. I know I'm not going to have the perfect setup for phasing, but co-phasing those using just for fun, just to see how it works, using the old CB truck driver dual antenna co-phasing harness. I'm going to do that here real soon on the beach and work it on 20 meters, knowing that with a half a half a wavelength apart, basically close to 10 meters, I should get a pretty good bi-directional run on that antenna. That's something I want to ask you about. What you thought of that?
I think certainly work. What benefit you would get over that for, say, a half square? It's probably much the same, Walt.
Right.
But it would be cool to do, you know. I think there's other ways to do it. I think a half square, which I think you've done the end-fed half square anyway, Walt. It would be good to see you doing that, trying that down by the shore again. That would be cool. It's the funny thing with antennas is it's very difficult to actually gauge things because you never get conditions the same twice, and it's very hard to set up antennas and have them transmitting and receiving at the same time without them interfering with each other. So that's the difficult thing that we've got to comprehend as amateurs, that it's hard to make a judgment sometimes on what, you know, it could be really good band conditions or but you know, if it works and if you can put time in with an antenna, I think that's always good.
Right.
Getting miles on it and getting and seeing how it performs. But that's a cool idea. I think that would definitely be good to see because I've not seen anyone doing that well. That would be cool.
When I talked to M1ECC, when I purchased the second Sidewinder from him, he's like, you might want to, you know, I could tell he was kind of like a little cringe there because, yeah, okay, we'll see how that works. You know what I mean? So, hey, like I said, no expectations. I just want to see, you know, with, you know, a store-bought CB co-phasing. I have enough coax to get it a half a wavelength apart, try it on 20 meters. If that fails, then I'll move in and just try 10 meters. But unfortunately, 10s just haven't been open like that.
But I mean, failing that, Walt, you could set them up as verticals, and you could just make the reflector 5% longer than the other one, and you could actually just use it as a parasitic array. That would be cool to see. That would be really good.
Great idea.
That would be good, because if you're going down there and you think maybe it's not working or you end up forgetting something, you could always do that because you only just need obviously the one coax feed, but you just need to short it out on the other one.
Right.
But yeah, I think you would probably need. I don't know if you've got an analyzer yet. I think you've got a nano VNA, Walt. Is that? I think you've
I don't have a nano VNA. What I was going to do was just each antenna run do an FWR sweep with like my X5105. The two, and then
Walt's got the ultimate analyzer.
That is the ultimate. You don't need one if you have that. I mean, pretty much what I want to do in SWR sweep. It works.
Yeah.
So.
I think
you. I'll let you run the show here. I've been taking up everybody's time asking all my antenna questions to Colin here, so I apologize, guys.
Yes,
that's perfectly fine.
Absolutely,
that's fine.
If I can follow up with a question to Colin, because I maybe I should know this, but coil-loaded parasitic elements, does that work the way you'd expect it to?
I think it will, but obviously when you have any sort of antenna that's shortened, you do reduce the efficiency massively. I mean,
absolutely,
but you will get. I think you will get some effect. It will give you some benefit. So let's say you have a full length quarter wave for 40 meters. You're probably going to get more benefit from just that single vertical rather than running two hamsticks, for example, because the hamstick may only be, I don't know, 8 or 10% efficient because it's loaded so much. But I think the principle will still work. The benefit will just be less than if it was, you know, full length elements. But if you're and especially if you're using it on the higher bands, like if you're using that Sidewinder, you're on some of the higher bands anyway. So there's probably not going to be so much loss of your signal, especially on like 20 and 17. I don't know where do you need the coil. Where do you use the coil all the way up to, Walt or Morton? 20, 17? I don't know where it becomes useless. The
Sidewinder, sometimes at 15. I've noticed now on vacation that it doesn't really tune on 15 on a lot of locations, so you need to take the coil off. But I haven't checked what the military whip is resonant, where it's resonant though. That is something I plan to do during vacation, but I ended up doing vacation things instead. So I'm going to take a look at that when I get back home.
I bought M1ECC's multi-section because I know it's kind of going against what you're trying to do, but I can just take the top section off, and then without removing the coil, I've got 12 and 10 meters, like by shortening the the driven. So I haven't tried this. Doing this soon. So,
and for some operating scenarios, Walt, that would be excellent to do, though, such as me outside my motorhome here, being able to just tune every band without fiddling too much with taking coils on and off and shortening antennas, just having one piece of gear to tune. Although you lose some efficiency, you're still able to operate a lot faster and with a lot less hassle. And for me on vacation, the less hassle part is way more important than the more efficient part.
Let's face it, no one's ever on 12 meters anyway, and 10's been dead, so it doesn't matter.
Well, 12 is a good. Yeah, 12 is a good band to call CQ on, though, because a lot of people listen. There's just not a lot of people calling.
It's funny when you spot yourself on 12 and call CQ, suddenly you have a pileup. But I can go across the band and it's a flat line on the SDR waterfall. I don't understand why more people don't just get on 12 and go to town. It's a
great band. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But who you think? I mean, who actually? And people must have them, but who actually has an antenna for 12? You know what I mean? It's obviously probably maybe just using your internal tuner and just touching something up, because a lot of people won't have unless you're using like a hex beam or one of these multi-trap verticals. People probably just using even like a 10-meter beam, and they're just hitting that tune button, but it's enough to get you on the band.
That's a good point. That's a good point, because like when you build even an infed half wave or whatever, 12 is always that one band where the SWR is just it's crazy. So
I'm running a 9.6 meter so-called random wire with a feed point tuner, and that tunes 12 nicely.
I was going to say sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
It's easily portable.
We have a 160 meter loop, delta loop at the club station, full size, and that tunes 12 meters perfectly. But that's not portable.
Have you seen the radiating pattern that 160 meters of loop creates on 12 meters?
It's probably not ideal. Yeah, probably not ideal, but
my 80 through 10 Wyndham actually tunes, or it doesn't tune. It's actually resonant on 12, so I don't need a tuner on 12 for that. Although it might not be very efficient, though.
It's funny. My Sigma Eurocom HF360, my home vertical here, 20 and 12 are the only two bands on that thing where I don't need to use my ATU, and it's I can't tell you why. I don't know. It's perfect. I mean, I get SWR like flat line on 20. Everywhere else, I mean, I could use it on 17 without an ATU, but the SWR is a little high. But for some reason, when it comes back down to 12, I'm like at about 1.5 to 1 on 12. And then all the other bands I have to use a tuner. I don't know how that happened either, but it happened. And I did tune it. I did tune it. When I built it, put it up, tuned it perfectly for 20. I figured I'd use that band the most.
I had one of those. Well, it wasn't that vertical, Walt, but when I first got licensed back in 2011, I think it was like AVT or something. It was one of these all-in-one verticals that was meant to cover 40 meters through 10, 6, something like that. I can't exactly. I lost it in a windstorm, but anyway, this antenna had some really funny SWR sweeps, and I guess it was massively lossy because I had a huge bandwidth and there was like flat SWR across like much of the HF spectrum. But I'll tell you one thing about this antenna is I had a dipole, and it wasn't particularly high, but it was a 40-meter dipole. And I remember coming home from work one day. I was night shift, so it was half past 6, 6:45 in the morning. And I heard these guys from the States, and they were about S3, S4 on the dipole. And I honestly flicked the switch to this vertical, and I couldn't believe it. They were like S7, S8. So, it just goes to show that sometimes even with, even you may think an antenna is not particularly good. That really shocked me to think that I just thought, oh, this antenna is deaf, but it was actually much better than the dipole. So I know that antenna can actually work quite well for you all, that HF360.
Yeah, I've had it up for close to 3 years, and it's because it's all I can have where I'm at. I got a little walkway out the fire escape. I just put it out there, and I tell you what, I played around with it and tuned it to get it, because I knew I'd be used 20 meters more than any other band. I figured if nothing else, I have a good 20 meter.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it kicks butt on 20 meters for me. People say, that's a dummy load, is whatever. It's like, meanwhile, I'm, long path to, the places and get up every morning. And then the South Pacific in Australia is like, S8, S9.
But
it's a great antenna for me.
What I've noticed with those antennas though, because I got one from another ham, same antenna as you got, and at his QTH it was great, but at my QTH it's a big 7-meter long dummy load, so I think it's really dependent upon soil conditions, height, everything. It's one of those antennas that if you get it to work, it'll work fine, but
I
it
think
just
my
depends on a
QTH
little bit of luck.
Yeah, because Morton.
I think if I recall correctly, Walt's got a metal roof, don't you?
Yeah, I have a metal roof underneath it, so I'm up on like the 3rd floor. Plus, 100 meters that way, all the way around to 100 meters that way. I'm surrounded by salt water, which I know I'm not like right on it, but I'm in an area where I would say I'm coming off and into the salt water with my signal too. That helps it a lot. So I get a lot of help.
Yeah, and Gert's got a question, and I'm thinking he asked a question about this antenna, though, that it's not possible to get it used without an ATU, and the docs state differently. But that's manufacturer documentation, though. That's the marketing department describing the antenna. I think that's the issue there.
Problem. I think that's the biggest problem with that antenna. Everyone just puts it together and throws it up and thinks they're going to have this magical antenna that works every band. What I did, because I knew, all right, this thing's got to be like somewhere. I actually took, there's an Allen wrench screw at the top and you can adjust it. And it took me 2 or 3 hours, but I tuned that thing so at least on 20 meters, I had a perfect antenna. And I don't think a lot of people do that. I think they just read the instructions, put it together, throw it up, hit the ATU button, and think that's going to work. And I think the success I've had with mine was because I tinkered and toyed with it until I got a good result on 20. Now, I've done a couple videos on it, and I even tell them this is not a 10-meter antenna. Mine absolutely sucks on 10 meters. So it'll work. I can make QSOs. I hit the ATU and tune it, but I'm not. I can hear people. On other parts of the world working K4s. And I can't get through. You know what I mean? So I know that it's like it is what it is.
I think some manufacturers as well, and I'm not gonna mention them, but some manufacturers say you don't need an ATU, but what they don't tell you is you still need a radio with an ATU in it. What they're talking about is a separate ETU, So I guess that's part of the market and what you were saying there, Martin. So yeah. There's ATUs and there's ATUs.
And actually, I've said this a lot of times, but the Magitena from I don't remember, it's a British manufacturer.
I know who you mean.
Was my first antenna at the bottom of the solar cycle, and it says you don't need an ATU and you don't need radials for it. First time I put it up in my attic just not to annoy my neighbors. I'm well past that now, but I put it up in my attic. Pressed the PTD button the day I got licensed, and every light, I got Philips Hue smart lighting in my house, and every light started turning on and off.
Oh, lovely.
This is how I run FT8 at the moment. I have these touch-sensitive lights here in the living room, and I know that I'm transmitting if the lights go on and off.
When I key the mic with that 100-watt amp going up here, I get the dim in this house too. Granted, the electrical system in this house was probably put in the 40s or 50s. This house was built in 1890, so it's like I definitely need a wiring upgrade. I've got all kind of like UPSs and everything else because it's really, this house is not built for that. For the amount of power, even this 100-watt amp pulls. That's another reason why I just operate the 20-watt G90 so much at home too, because hey, it's like it's not a burden.
No, and but the thing is though, does your neighbors like them when you hit the PTT button?
I'm pretty sure the people below me, it's got to happen to them too. Although we're on separate, circuits or whatever. But yeah, I live in an old historic district, and we don't even we don't have like most of the states has fiber for internet or all like that. I have DSL on my home internet here, which I don't know what it's like in Europe, but for here that's antiquated and old. But yeah, all the wiring in this place is very old, including the internet coming in and everything. But hey, it is what it is. I make the best out of it.
Yeah,
That's the same,
and
that's the same in Europe. Walt, is fairly antiquated. I probably told this story before, but at home when I'm on 30 meters, anything more than 5 watts, I turn the air conditioner of my neighbor on and off, and it's amplifier for his TV and the lights in his bathroom. So every once in a while, I get a message: Are you playing radio? And I said, yeah. You please stop. He's a nice guy, so I usually stop.
and
We had a comment from Tim here. You might want to find that and put it back.
yeah, I'm going to find that, and then I'll put Gert's question up again after that, and we'll try to get back to that.
That is a very, very good comment. I've seen people saying that with other words for a long time.
That's a great point, because I mean I've experienced that myself, but having obviously when you're either calibrating your nano VNA or if you have a rig expert, you can actually calibrate it to the end point of your coax, which is really handy to do. So when I actually build my antennas now, and I actually test the real SWR, or I want to check the parameters, the resistance reactance, I check them right at the feed point, and not taking the length of the coax into account, because if you have a really high SWR, that coax makes a massive difference. But if you have a perfectly tuned antenna, so resistance 50, reactance 0, you're basically, your coax makes no difference. So that's such a good point if you're building antennas, because that can actually throw a lot of people off when they're building them. So you think you're tuning it, but you're not really, because your coax has become part of the matching network.
ABC, right? Always be choking. That's what we learned that last.
It's not even so much just choking, Walt. That is part of it, but because you've got these impedances, they're working against each other. I mean, using coax to match antennas, is something people that's been done for years. I mean, people that would run like a loop, so they'd use like a quarter wave of 75 ohm coax to match that loop for a monoband loop. Right. So I think it's just something to be mindful for. But I'll put my hand up. I've got an off-center fed dipole, a commercial made one, and it's not got some great. I got the SWR as good as I could, and it was like 3-to-1 by the time it comes through my coax. And there's only about 25 meters of coax. It's two and a bit something to 1. But the radio's happier, so I'm not going to complain.
It does have your radio, but it doesn't do wonders for the amount of energy you put up. So that's the thing.
But it's still better than not having an antenna up, though.
Absolutely.
Gert's got a question here, and I guess this is still the Euro Sigmacom whatever antenna, or it's made or it's sold by a lot of brand name, and there are a lot of brand names though. But is this when you tune it on ground, will the difference be big when you put it on an 18-meter mast? You have tuned this antenna, Walt?
I tuned mine, like I was out on the roof, and I have the handrails. I would adjust it, put it back up on the handrail, and then check it. So I was fortunate enough. I'm probably 15 to 18 meters above ground, but I was standing right at the antenna. Had I had to take a pole down and put it back up all the time, I wouldn't have gone through the trouble I did tuning that thing. I'd have just said, it is what it is, but it's tough.
But I had the same experience with my 4-meter dipole that I put up because I tuned it relatively perfect on ground and then moved it up in my mast, which is about 10 meters above ground, and it changed the resonance point from 70 megahertz to 66 megahertz. And needless to say, it's got to go down, but it's still up in the mast because it's up in a mast. So, but then again, the tuner of the IC7300 tunes 4 meters. So when someone's on 4 meter, I'll probably be able to make a QSO.
I think it's a fair assumption that any antenna you tune on the ground is going to be detuned when you move it 18 meters up. There's very few antenna designs that's not going to do that.
Exactly.
What are your thoughts on this? You know, I'm a low power guy. A QRP and 20 watts for me is kind of what I cap out at. Occasionally I play around with 100 watts, but when you know, we're talking about loss and coax and what have you, the ratio of loss to 20 watts is a heck of a lot less than the ratio of loss for, say, 100 or 200 or 400 watts. I mean, and maybe this is why I have a lot of success with some of the antennas I've got, because even with the ATU and tuning the antenna, what losses I have are, you know, let's just say I've got 50% of efficiency of an antenna from 20 watts. Now I'm operating at what, I know we get into the dB thing, whatever, but let's just say theoretically, I'm throwing 10 watts out there instead. There's not a lot of difference in the free world out here when you're going like a 10 watt whatever. But let's just say I was trying to run 1,000 watts or 400 watts, and I had this same amount of loss in the coax or whatever. Then it would be greater, wouldn't you say, Colin?
I know what you what you would tend to what I've noticed, and I've personally noticed it with people running. So I've noticed it with people running amplifiers and turning them off, and also people running like 100 watts and going down to literally 500 milliwatts. Is that the signal strength doesn't decrease as much as the talk power. So when you hear these stations that are running big antennas and big amplifiers, they're really, really loud. But when you turn that off, their signal doesn't drop that much, but they go much quieter. I know that sounds strange, but I do have an amplifier, and I notice it gives you much more talk power rather than signal units to actually see on the S meter. But that's actually what makes the difference, because when you hear a loud station, that's the station that you want to go back to. But yes, you're right, Walt. If you're going from 20 watts to 10 watts, yes, it's 3 dB. You could say it's half an S point or an S point on some radios, but you're not going to notice probably a lot of difference. But I mean, people are running whisper transmissions at 100 milliwatts, 200 milliwatts, and they're still working around the world. Okay, they're low power modes, but I think you've got to get some RF out there rather than no RF out there, and that's the main thing. I mean, people will get frustrated because they can't work a station. Well, they can't work a station because there's a pile-up there. There might be a pile-up of 100 stations there, and they're all S9. Well, you're only an S6 to them. But if there was no stations there, you would be able to work that station. You know what I mean? So it's not that you know.
I was getting at any wire and any antenna in the air is better than nothing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So you can drive yourself crazy trying to make it perfect. At the end of the day,
you never will.
Yeah, when you're running low power, how perfect is perfect? You know what I mean? It's just like,
yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, you should always, for me, being no CD guy that I am, I always try and make it as good as I can make it. But you're right, you'll never make it absolutely perfect. And I think what's been an eye opener for me is 9-to-1. Smoking Ape's done a couple of videos where he's done efficiency transformer loss of a 9-to-1, and he's losing very, very little, to the point that you're actually losing less in a 9-to-1 transformer than you're losing in a 49-to-1 transformer.
Right.
So okay, you don't have the coax loss in a 49-to-1, but you have a little bit more coax loss than a 9-to-1. So the two, and if you're using a short length of coax, the two of them probably balance themselves out. So that was actually quite surprising, because I expected there to be more losses in, like, say, a 9-to-1 than what they actually are. When you're talking about losing 0.6 or even 1 dB in a 9-to-1, it's absolutely nothing. It's nothing to worry about. And if you're using like 10 foot of coax or even 20 foot of coax, I wouldn't worry about it. And I think a lot of people have had good results with 9-to-1s, random wires, but I'm not really random.
I've had great results with 9-to-1s, and even with broken 9-to-1s. Actually, I got a video on that where actually with a broken 9-to-1 transformer managed to reach Puerto Rico, and not the one on the Canary Islands, but the one in the Caribbean with 5 watts. But 9-to-1s are as with ham sticks, a lot better than their reputation, and it kind of shows that use whatever you got to get on the air, and sometimes a 9-to-1 that you can tune across a lot of bands is the right antenna for your operating environment.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I think you've got to stack the odds in your favour. So Walt's talked about it there. So it's the same here. So going into sort of this spring and the autumn, if you know us guys in the UK, if we go operate, so sort of from 6-7 o'clock in the morning, we get the long path into VK and ZL. Well, much of Europe is still sleeping at that time, and you've actually got a chance to work these guys. So you know, if you want to work the DX and you want to work these stations, you've really got to stack things in your favour. If you're trying to work some of this DX in the middle of the afternoon or in the evening, you've got every other station trying to do the same. So your chances are much more limited. So you've got to stack the odds.
Yeah, it's tough. I know. I've been like, I get up early in the morning with low power to work VK from here, short path, which is still, you know, a long ways. And it never fails. Somewhere as the sun starts coming up, I'm making contacts or whatever. And as we get in later into the morning, then that's when all the guys with 1,000 watts and beams and everything wake up, and then there's no way I can get through. You know what I mean? It's like the pileups happen and it's over. You're absolutely right, Colin. And that brings up another thing too. I like what you said earlier about the vertical versus the dipole. Receiving how well your antenna receives. I don't think a lot of people put a lot of thought into this, but how well you can receive really means a lot. It really does, especially the guys with power. I mean, I know a lot of times, a lot of my contacts, people are like, wow. I'm thinking, well, what you don't realize is he was doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Other people probably couldn't hear me, but he could because of his antenna, you know, and that's you got to find those guys. I know we all know him here in the States, like Sugar 5-1 David X-Ray. He can hear me, and I know other guys can hear him.
Yeah.
I think he can hear everyone. He's got sensory perception, I think.
And Tim's got a good point here, though, that 40 meters at 0500 Zulu is great for North America from the UK. And that's my experience as well. The few times I've actually been up at that time. I got a nighttime job, so I usually try to sleep in when I can. But sometimes it happens that I get home from work at that time, and then it's a great time to turn on the radio and get that great DX.
Yeah.
That's what I was doing in Poland. I was getting up that early and making my contacts in North America when I was in Poland at about 5 UTC. That was the best time for me. It was perfect. Even a little earlier, actually. But unfortunately, here in North America at 5 UTC, man, I'm sawing on wood, man. It's like, it's hard to. That's 1 in the morning right now.
When I was going for my kilo for Parks on the Air, I did a few shifts before work, and I start at 7 in the morning or 5 GMT. So I got up early and like set an hour on the beach. That was some of the best DX I had with 10 watts. That was really nice. There was a question or comment earlier from William Northcote, far back there, but about like a big arrays for receiving. And just down the street here, we have the receiving array for the Norwegian shipping radio was shut down in the 70s. And the sending array is an hour away from here. And that's just an amazing, huge field filled with verticals, which they used for ships radio for CW. And that was really cool. They used that to send messages all over the world. And I would guess a few square kilometers of receiving antennas.
We've got
is that open to the public, Kjetil?
Yes, if you most of it is.
We should activate.
Yeah, sadly, it's there's no coax. I haven't found any coax.
I bet there's radials in the dirt there that you could just stick into the dirt and use the radial field underneath.
Yeah, it's probably dug down. That's consisting of 2 places, like 2 sites, which are, I think they're like 50 kilometers apart or something. They are hugely far apart, but still cool.
Yeah, that's the same with the Grimeton station in Sweden, where the sending station is actually about, I think it's about 100 kilometers north of the, or the receiving station, sorry, is about 100 kilometers north of the transmitting station.
Yeah.
Just to avoid the interference.
One of the fun things there is that lots of the operators there were female, which was really special for that time. So I had a really nice chat with one of them. She was a Sparky, as they called her, or a Gnist in Norwegian. And like really cool to hear all of the weird stuff they did and sent, because they had to send like all traffic, like civilian traffic.
Cool.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Have you seen this?
Go ahead, Wolf.
Have you seen this? I think it's a fad now that there was a couple videos done on it. They call it the magic carpet, where they're using a home screen, like window screen, and putting it on the ground and putting it vertical over the screen. And I kind of chuckle because, you know, and Tim, if you're still watching G5TM, will probably agree with me. Isn't that just the roof of a vehicle or a roof of a car? I mean, it's the same principle, right? You got a piece of square metal, and that's basically.
You know, I've got an opinion on that, but I can't back it up. So I seen a video. It was actually a Tango Oscar Mike. If you look back, he did a video, and I can't remember what he called it, but basically he had an end-fed half wave. So I think it was cut for 40 meters, so it was a 20 meters of wire. So he had this end-fed half wave, and he had I think it was a Wolf River coil, and this ground screen that he got from Home Depot or wherever, and he had them on an AB switch, and he was just switching between them, and it was actually incredible the difference that the advantage that the end-fed have over this magic carpet, and it was, some of them were 3, 4, 5 S points of difference. And he was really shocked to see the difference in that. So maybe that was just his experience. Maybe that's just how his antennas were set up. And that's what I was going back to saying before. It's really difficult to do a comparison, because you could have an antenna that's giving you, oh, these stations are coming S7, S8. Well, maybe they would be S9 plus. So it's, you know, but I think I agree with what you're saying there. To me, I think it's a bit like a car roof there, Walt. But if it works, it works. It's convenient, you know.
Yeah, but the thing is, with the window screen, it's such a North American thing, because most European countries don't use the window screens.
No.
And we can't just go to a hardware store and buy them. But I mean, it's still, as you said, it's about convenience, though. And
yes.
I prefer, in a lot of operating environments, just to use one of those loaded verticals, because it takes up a lot less space. And if you're, let's say, in an environment with a lot of people, such as a campsite, it's nice to take up a lot less room, and you gain less attention with it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Window screen down on the dirt, on the earth, you are getting the advantage of the ground plane there compared to the roof of a car, you know. But it just, like, I get so many comments ever since the video came out a couple months ago. It seems like every one of my vertical videos that I do, and we're talking about counterpoise wires, whatever, someone chimes in there and says, Walt, you should really try the magic carpet. But I want to say, you know, look, when I'm at the beach, I don't need the magic carpet. I'm on top of the magic, the magic of salt water. You know, one little wire is all I need, and I'm tapped into the ground plane. But I'm kind of really wondering, and it's actually after this, I'm going out because it's raining here and it's ugly. I'm gonna go out mobile in a little while and operate through the gray line with a mag mount on top of the car. And I was going to mention that maybe in the video that, you know, I was going to bang on the roof. This is my magic carpet right here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One question about the 49-to-1 transformers. I have had some issues with, I had a capacitor in mine. It broke off, like because of vibrations. So like the leg snapped up. How critical is the size of that? Do you know that?
It depends, and it depends on the winding. Do you still have it, or do you know what type of winding or what type of core it was? I mean, typically it's 100 or 110 picofarad, and then the purpose, and obviously the purpose of the capacitor is to bring in the high bands. It lowers the SWR on like 15 and 10 predominantly. it doesn't really make much difference on like the 20 and 40. So yes, it can make a difference, but it depends on the application. Evo Lair Electronics, he's done a few videos on that, and I think he went slightly bigger. I think he maybe went up to 150. But yes, it can make a difference, but it just depends on your circumstances, the type of core, the type of winding that you need to use. But it won't have any detrimental effect to the antenna, but it's just getting one that's going to suit your combination or your type of transformer that you have.
Because the only replacement I had was, I think it was 10 or something. So basically, after mounting that, I couldn't tune anything on 20 or 40 meters.
Okay, there you go.
So yeah.
But 10 versus 110, that's a fairly big difference. Shouldn't be really surprising.
But it's better than 0.
Yes.
Yeah, that was my thought at least. So you take what you have, and that was also soldered in the field, so that could also be part of the issue.
But I guess your soldering kit is back in the back of your van now, not at home. Sorry for bringing that up. I don't know if that was brought up while I was replacing laptops here.
Nope.
So, we're gonna leave that then.
Yeah, leave it where it is, far from me, with most of my radio gear.
We're talking about that thing. Yes, all right.
Yeah.
So let's not. I have a soldering iron for that USB soldering iron. It's called a TS something. I can't remember its name. I think that's really nice. I use that for all sorts of things.
Yeah.
That's a pump, is it?
One of these. This is propane or butane, but this is a Portasol, this takes like mega abuse. They're not particularly cheap. They're about €50, £50, something like that. But I think I'm on my third one, and the only reason they're broken is because I dropped it off a roof. But this thing is mega hot, and you'll solder absolutely anything with this.
My experience with
what are you going to solder? Because the one I'm talking about is that USB power that you can use that for soldering surface mats, really small surface mats.
You can't do that with this. This is really good for like RF connectors, but no, couldn't use it for that stuff.
My experience with this gas-powered, propane butane-powered soldering irons is at the point they're hot enough, you're out of gas.
Yeah.
But I use one for work though, because it's not everywhere that I can have power connected easily. So it's so much easier with the gas powered one.
Yes.
Colin, have you done much experimenting with UHF and VHF type antennas?
No, I need to get back to. I'm just looking over my shoulder here. I've actually got a tape measure Yagi sitting over here. So when I first got licensed, I did with the radio club I was in, we went and did a SOTA, and I didn't know it was a SOTA. To be fair, at the time we walked up this Demaya hill, and it was these guys took out this tape measure Yagi, and I was just amazed at this thing, how this was working. So I built this tape measure Yagi. I still have it here, and then after that, I actually made a 2-meter quad. Man, that was a really good antenna. It was just a 3-element quad for 2 meters, and the front to back on this was just devastating. And I was only using it on FM up on a fiberglass pole, but I was like working repeaters, like 60, 70 miles away with this little quad antenna. It was incredible. I think I must have thrown it out, or I lost it when I moved. But a 2-meter quad, something that I'd like to actually build again. Not particularly difficult. It was just basically made out of PVC pipe, and you just basically drilled a cross hole through it, and then it was like some fiberglass poles. But that's about as much as I've actually experimented on. I've not really even done anything on 6 meters. My old QTH, when I had a commercial hex beam, it had 6 meters on it, and I worked across the States once. There's a guy, I think he's in Puerto Rico. He's a KP4 something, and he's like a big gun 6-meter station. And I worked him on CW, so that's my only time I've worked some DX on 6. But no, it really is just not taking any of my interest, Walt. Usually, I only build antennas that I really have to be interested to then want to build them. But I'm sure it'll come at some point, but I'll maybe get back to it.
like you, I'm an HF guy, but I'm starting to kind of fall down the VHF rabbit hole a little bit. I want to. I just bought the Comet for chasing satellites, the Comet 70, and I want to get out and try to work satellites. That's my next venture, and what I really want to learn a little bit about. You know, what I mean, especially where I'm at. Like we were talking about before, I go down the beach, and I've got the entire horizon from one end to the other. If the satellite's in the right path, so. I want to go down that road a little bit, and like I said, start with a commercial one and then maybe build one. I've been really interested in studying and reading about the egg beaters. You know, the egg beater antenna.
Yeah,
make it a lot easier. So kind of going down.
It's not hard to build a handheld 2 meter 70 centimeter Yagi though. My first antenna build after I got licensed was one of those. It wasn't that easy back then, but another guy that I got licensed with bought an Arrow, and I figured I'm going to be able to replicate that. Went on Thingiverse, found a design, stripped an old clothes drying rack for just aluminum rods and cut them to length, and I worked satellites on that.
How are you still married? How are you still married when doing things like that?
It's a very good way to get questions from like the people around you. I did it in the garden outside the apartment block I was living in, and I got quite a lot of questions what the hell I was doing. Yeah.
So I see. I get what Steve's saying there too. It's the same way. I mean, at the core of me and the heart of me, like I've been into shortwave radio and medium wave radio as a listener for over 50 years, and then a ham for a few years now. And I'm an HF guy all the way. But like right now, when when something happens where we're at with solar events or whatever, and the bands are just crap, I want to still play radio. I thought, hey, why not go down that road a little bit and experiment and learn? I'm just trying to learn,
Yeah, I brought this camping now. I programmed the repeaters for the places I was going to be. And apparently repeater book is not to be trusted. I knew that from before, but and even radio clubs websites aren't to be trusted because there's no repeaters that open when I try. So I didn't bring my DMR hotspot, but that's kind of radio, cheating radio. It's not real radio. And people are probably going to be mad at me for saying this, but
are we talking about FT8 or DMR?
DMR.
There we go.
I mean, DMR is in my case RF for about a meter to the hotspot, and then it's all IP from there. But it's still fun when everything else is down.
The fun thing about building VHF, UHF antennas is the size. Like you don't have to drag around something that's huge. So one of the best antennas I made was a loop antenna for 2 meters, which I built. It wasn't a normal loop, but some other design. I don't remember. I just built it with tape on my window. Like I just taped wire, like copper wire up to my window. And that worked perfectly. I could run repeaters really far off. So you can do some really simple stuff, which is small and almost invisible.
And it's an easy way for new hams to learn how to build antennas, though, because everything's more compact. And it isn't that hard to get started with.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's cheap. Like you can just use electrical wire, and you don't need 100 meters of it.
No, you can get that. You can get that foil back tape as well. I've actually, I think there's an ARRL book, but basically it's like a folded dipole, and it uses that. It's like I think it's for insulation, but it's like foil tape, and you can actually just basically you could use it inside your house, a room, whatever. Just connect up a wire, and yes, you've got an HF antenna inside your house. So that's quite cool.
You get
one of the English British YouTubers did experiments with that. It could be Tech Minds or
I think I was going to say that. I think
Manchester,
Tech Minds did that with just a 2 meter antenna with just copper tape, I think, on the window.
Yeah.
It didn't really work great for him, as I recall. But I should also remind everyone we're getting close to the full hour now.
Yeah, we are. And we're pretty much getting close to at the point where it's got to be quiet on the campsite. So, but we can start to round off here though, and see. And Any plans for? Well, let's go round though. Let's start with Kjetil since he's down in the corner. I haven't managed to point the right way.
Yeah.
Any plans for next week if you get your radio equipment back?
I do have some radio gear here, so I'm not totally lost. But I'm starting working again, like on Thursday. So then the summer vacation is over, and it's going to be raining between now and then. So
Yeah.
probably not very much radio work. But since you guys mentioned satellite, I haven't done that in ages. I want to do that again.
Yeah.
Except for all that gear is in the car.
And just remind me when we get all around to me. Just remind me about the satellite part, in case I forget or squirrel off to another subject.
Yeah, and I got tons of video materials from my trip around Norway to put together. So there will be a few videos coming up over the next few weeks. So,
on both your channels?
Yeah, probably both the short channel and the other with different like radio or nature content.
So, yeah. Colin, any plans for the next week?
No, so I'm going to be. This is my center for my 15 meter Moxon. So I need to make another one of these for my 20 meter Moxon to suit the bigger fiberglass tubes. So maybe even later on tonight or tomorrow, I'm going to order some of that up. I'll probably get that by the end of this week, and then I need to start basically making another one of these. And then because I have all the wires and everything cut for the 20 meter Moxon because I had. Here, so this was the old 20 meter Moxon center, and if you look at the difference is incredible. So that's what I'm going to do. So that's probably a couple of weeks off, and we'll get the 20 meter Moxon built, and then I'll get back to the hex beam.
Absolutely, that sounds. I got to start building more Moxons. I've made a 2 meter Moxon, but I got to try to make larger Moxons to see how well they actually work. Bob, any plans for the next week? Any more summits?
I think as Kjetil said, it's bound to rain quite a bit next week, so I haven't made any plans really. As for the Moxons for 2 meters, I've been wanting to create a SATgate APRS gateway for IIS, and I just from my QTH, I figured a Moxon just slightly tilted will pretty much cover IIS whenever it's in reach. So I've been thinking about making a 2 meter Moxon just for that. I think I can get away with sticking that up on the roof without annoying the neighbors too much. And other than that, I've been really happy with the 20 meter vertical with elevated radials. So I'm looking into variations of that and making it multi-band. I have an idea that if I accept to slightly off center feed it, I can just replace either radials or the vertical element to change band, not having to swap out everything. So I'm going to try and model that if I get some free time. So that's a good activity for doing in the rain. That's probably where I'm going to be spending my next week.
Sounds good. Tobias?
Yeah, more doctor's appointments. I get my clamps out. I have a 15 centimeter cut here in my shoulder with metal clamps. So that would be fun. And dentist appointment to fix the teeth, very interesting. And then I have to see if I can do a few videos. I think I have to change my production because I don't want to spend ages in front of the computer cutting videos. So maybe I can do like short 10-minute, shoot it raw, upload it raw, and see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I find that easier though if I make 2, 3, 4 minute videos. It's a lot easier than those longer ones if you manage to get everything you want to fit in that time frame.
Exactly. So I will probably use the egg timer, set it to 10 minutes, and that's the video you get here. Yeah, and it is as bad or as good as it gets.
If I can, I need to inject this. If you get an iPhone and shoot all your even pictures on that, Tobias, my iPhone, it just creates videos for me because I have a YouTube channel. I don't really use it, but my iPhone just gave me a very nice montage of the the summit where I did the 120 QSO. So you can actually watch that on my YouTube channel.
Okay,
I
great.
just took pictures, and the iPhone just created this really nice video with the captions and music and everything.
Yeah, and your channel's linked below, Bob, so everyone can subscribe to your channel.
Check it out.
Walt, any plans?
I'm getting back. I'm getting back into the swing of things. This has been my first week back here in the United States, so it's been tough getting back to working, getting scheduled, and everything. Right now we have a storm that's I don't know if you can hear the thunder, but we have a storm that's rolling across. It should be out. It's 4 p.m. in the afternoon here. I'm hoping by 6 or 6:30 it's gone. I'm going to go out mobile tonight and put a mag mount on top of the roof. I'm been putting together a video on all my different mobile setups, and the one thing I haven't done is that 17-foot telescopic, the MFJ telescopic, the big one. I'm going to put it on the roof of my wife's SUV tonight and just go out and work the gray line with that and see how things are going, and then add it to the video and finish it up. Got a lot of ideas, a lot of things I want to do. We talked about the co-phased verticals. I want to do that, and a few other things. I have some radios that I want to revisit. I've got all these cheap Chinese QRP radios. I want to do a little bit more in depth with some of them and run them through and test the power on them or whatever, and get out and operate those a little bit. And then, like I said, I've sunk a little bit of money into the setup for chasing satellites, so I want to start experimenting and doing that. But yeah, that's what I have planned. Unfortunately, right now, back in the office, I'm working like 6 days a week and catching up with stuff. So my time is precious right now, but I'm going to try to do the best I can. I won't just throw a video up. I've told people this before, just to have a video. If I don't like it or whatever, you'll probably for the next month or two see maybe one video every 7 or 8, 9, 10 days from me. It won't be like Poland where I was doing 2 a week, because in Poland I worked and then I had nothing but free time, to do videos and experiment and have that kind of fun. But I'm gonna try to get out as much as I can. And like I said, here in just a little while, when this is over and the storm blows over, I'm going to get out and go mobile. So if anybody's somewhere around midnight UTC, if you want to try to catch me, I'll probably be on 20 meters having some fun. So that's what I have planned.
Yeah, I'll probably be in bed then, though. Got to check out from the campsite tomorrow morning. So, but
I have a 2-hour drive home. Maybe I'll just stick the hamstick on the roof of the car and listen for you when I get home.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Speaking about satellites, OpenGD77. Let's see if we can get this radio to light up here. And no, it doesn't pick up on the camera. But OpenGD77's got a satellite mode, where you can just pick the satellite. It'll show you where it passes over the horizon. It'll correct the Doppler shift for you, and all those things. So that's one thing I'm going to try. Probably not the next week though. What I am going to look at next week is the Slidewinder. Check out where the military whip is actually resonant, and if it works to just fold it back to shorten it. Put that on the nano VNA and conclude a little bit about that and the series of loaded verticals. And then I'm going to use a 5-meter whip and compare that to all of the loaded verticals. And I got pretty much a clear opinion on which is going to be the winner. I think the 5-meter whip is going to perform a lot better than every other antenna. And thanks to this guy down here for letting me borrow the Slidewinder. And I'm going to take a look at CB radio again, actually. A little bit on the side of the topic here, but since I got that old Zodiac CB, I'm going to try to make an antenna for CB, put it up, and see if I can get any QSOs on CB.
11 meters. 11 meters. We're going to call it
11. Yeah, we're going to call it 11 meters. Okay. and speaking about that, I've revisited the R1 CBU firmware for the 6100 in the, I think it's version 0.17 now. And it's actually marked off where the CB bands are, or sorry, the 11-meter bands on that. And a lot has happened since I looked at that firmware. It's turned out to be a really good piece of firmware. Actually, perhaps even better. Doesn't take much though, but better than Saigoo's own firmware on that radio. So I'm going to revisit that a little bit and see how that works. And that's pretty much. Not sure if I got time for all of those things next week, but I'm going to revisit some of those. And I still have vacation for another 3 weeks, so plenty of time to figure that out.
Living, man, that's rough.
What, 5 weeks of vacation?
Yeah,
It's actually 4 weeks of vacation. The rest is just overtime that I'm taking out. So
I've been working for 43 years and I haven't had 5 weeks off.
that is because you live in the wrong country, Walt.
Yeah.
But
if I could just on the tail end rub it in, we have an on-call system where I work, so I basically have 8 weeks every year. As a compensation for that.
And then when you're 60 plus, you get 1 extra week of vacation.
I'd get that job. I'm immigrating to Norway tomorrow, man. This is great.
There's always the choice to break your arm, Walt, you know?
Yeah.
You've got to pay the tax, though, Walt. That's what you might want to do.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure.
And I guess that's it for today, though. We stick pretty close to the hour mark, and we actually stayed on topic for once, and that's impressive. Next week, and that was right on time. I'm not sure. Let me just swap cameras here, though. Let's see.
We can still hear you. We can still hear you, Martin.
I know you still can hear me, though.
Television station sign off in America right here with this sign right there. So that's cool.
Yeah. Let's see here.
There you go. You're back.
Slightly worse picture quality, but as I said to Walt before we started, everything's battery operated here. So I guess that was my camcorder running out of battery. I do have a spare battery here, but I'm not going to change that. Anyhow, next week, if I'm not calendar dyslexic still, because I've been sending a couple of mails back and forth with Irish Ham Radio with Dave. Hopefully he'll be on next week. I think that's the correct date. So we'll talk a little bit about ham radio in Ireland and a little bit of portable. And as with you, Shetel, he's a flora fauna guy. So I guess we'll talk a little bit flora fauna next week as well. William, he's going to eat surströmming. And on that note, 7-3.
7-3.
7-3.
Thanks, Colin.